Hello and welcome to another breakout session. This is breakout session number 63. I want to say hi to all the Guitar League members around the country and ask if you haven't already, or anybody that's watching, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. Hit the little bell and we'll tell you when something's coming up here. And if you like it, please hit the like button. I want to send a special hey to one of our members, Jay Thorne, who was a presenter at our Guitar League a couple of months ago, and he has a copywritten idea here that really is great for breaking down the fretboard, and he calls it the fixed number system, and it's really, really cool. So I want to kind of expand on it a little bit. I don't want to step on his toes at all, but I'm going to take it a little further and try to, I'm calling this untie the Gordian knot. So if anybody knows any Greek mythology about Alexander the Great, there was this very complicated knot, and they were asking him how to untie it, and he just went up with his sword and he cut it. So it's pretty simple, you know, and that's what we want to do with the fretboard. It's very complicated, but we want to make it as simple as possible. So that's what we're going to do today. So I put a lot of materials down in the description that'll help you. There is a fretboard with, we're going to work in the key of C to begin with here. So we're going to have all the numbers. So first, let's start at the things that you need, the basic things that you need to do to untie this knot of the fretboard. Okay? First thing is, you need to learn the notes on the fretboard, the names of the notes on the fretboard. And reason being, because then you can find the root note to whatever scale you're working in, the number one note in that scale. You can find it and go from there. The next thing you're going to want to learn is, remember this phone number, 221-2221, okay? That's the scale degrees of a major scale. And on a guitar, we're talking about distance in frets, okay? So like if we took a C note and we did 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, that would be a C scale. Okay, so there's 2 frets, 2 frets, 2 frets, 1 fret. 2 frets, 2 frets, 2 frets, and 1 fret. And that is the sequence of a major scale. So if you move that C up to D and did that same number, that same 221, 22221, you would have the D scale. Okay? And in his system, the next thing I want you to do, okay, you got that far, okay, you remembered that phone number. Now, we're going to take the notes that you just hit, and we're going to number those notes. So we're working in the C scale, okay? So you're going to number the notes from 1 to 7, okay? And in this, in his fixed number system, it's like, you know, there's a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. There's only like, there's only 1 fret between the 3 and the 4, and there's only 1 fret between the 7 and 1. So you're going to number all the notes, 1 through 7, and start again at 1, okay? So you want to learn that. The next thing you want to learn is how to harmonize a scale. So we're in C still, okay? So to harmonize a scale, that's basically playing the chords of the scale, okay? So it would be a major chord, a minor chord, a minor chord, a major chord, a major chord, a minor chord, a diminished chord, and back to the root chord. So in the key of C, it would be a C, a D minor, an E minor, an F, a G, an A minor, a B diminished, back to C. And it works that way in every scale. It's a major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, back to the root chord, okay? So that's what we want you to learn today. Now, in your paperwork materials that I gave you, I have this, we're in this scale of C, and we have all the C scales numbered 1 through 7. And what your assignment's going to be, print out a couple of these. Your assignment would be to, on that page, to draw out the cage shapes that are there. And look for the 1s, 3s, and 5s in those numbers, because those are the chord tones for the chords. But, you know, we want you to know that the cage shapes, so there's a C-shaped C. There's an A-shaped C. There's a G-shaped C. There's an E-shaped C. There's a D-shaped C. And back to C again. That progression of C, A, G, E, D happens everywhere, okay? In every scale, okay? But it would start with whatever key you're in. You know, so if you were in the key of E, I call it Ed Cage, and I did a whole video on Ed Cage, so look that up. I'll attach that on here too. But the point of it is, you know, E is followed by a D shape, which is followed by a C shape, which is followed by an A shape, which is followed by a G shape, which is followed by an E shape, or E shape, and that's the whole progression. So it just keeps going in that order. Caged, only it depends on where you started, okay? So far I think we got it. So your assignment is to see those shapes in that scale. Now, the next thing I want to do, and this is for my friend Bob in Guitar League. He's a very good guitar player, but he's kind of hung up on modes a little bit, okay? So I want to simplify the modes as much as humanly possible. There are 7 modes, just like those numbers that we just gave the notes of a scale, right? So there's 7 modes. So, you know, and they have Greek names. It's like Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Lucrian, okay? That's immaterial, really. But there's the first mode, the second mode, the third mode, the fourth mode, the fifth mode, okay, of the same scale. And all that is the same scale. So if we're in C, okay, if we're in the key of C, the major key of C, that would be, if you were playing those notes, that's the Ionian. The next mode, the second mode in any scale, is Dorian. So the simplest way, rather than trying to play, that would be a D now, right? We're going from C to D, so that's the second note or chord in that scale. And that chord, the second chord, is going to be a minor chord. So the Dorian scale would be played over a D minor chord progression, okay? And it would be, it's so simple. It's a C scale starting on the D note and ending on the D note, okay? So you start on the D note and you play a C scale and end on D, and you'd play that over a D minor chord. That's Santana's, he does a lot of that Dorian scale stuff. Okay, and so that the first mode, the second mode, which is Dorian, is a minor mode. The third mode, which is Phrygian, is a minor mode. So that would be in the scale of C, that would be an E, right? So that would be an E minor. So over an E minor chord progression, you would play a C scale starting on E and ending on E. It's this simple, okay? When you go to the actual Dorian scale, you know, and try to figure that out, it's a lot more complicated. It's exact same notes, but the thinking of it is very complicated, okay? So his question, Bob's question was, in A, an A Dorian scale, which you'd play over an A minor chord. Now we're going to a different key, okay? He's talking about an A Dorian scale that you'd play over an A minor chord. All that is, A Dorian would be the second mode of a G scale. See, I'd go back one to G, and that would be the scale that it would be in. So you would play a G scale starting on the A note and ending on the A note, okay? That is out of the same exact notes that's in an A Dorian scale. Rather than thinking that in an A Dorian scale, the fifth is going to be sharp, okay? That's an F note, okay? F sharp note, okay? In a G scale, starting on A, that note is an F sharp note, okay? So it's the same note in both scales. Now, we don't want to get too complicated, but so the A Dorian scale you would play over an A minor chord. That's a total different sound than an A natural minor scale or an A melodic minor scale or an A pentatonic scale, but you could play any one of those over an A minor chord. I've got a little loop here of an A minor, just an A minor, vamping on that. Okay, so here's the Dorian scale, which is the G scale. Okay, that's the Dorian scale over there. Here's the A minor natural scale. Here's an A melodic scale. Or harmonic, one of those two. You can play any one of those over A minor, but it gives you a totally different sound. And then an A minor pentatonic, which you all know. All of those can be played over A minor. But the point of this today was you don't have to think about necessarily the modes, but if you wanted to play an A Dorian mode over an A minor progression, like Santana, you would just have to think about a G major scale starting on A. So like if a Mixolydian scale, let's go back to the key of C for just a second here. The Mixolydian scale, which is the fifth mode of C, okay? It's a C scale, but the fifth note in this scale of C is G. And usually the fifth chord in a C progression is a G dominant 7 chord. Not a major 7, a dominant 7 chord. So over that chord, you would play a G Mixolydian scale, which is a C scale starting on G. Okay? So, no, C scale. All right, let's move this up, G mixolydian. We're going to move it up to this G right here. And we're going to play a C scale. Starting on G. So that's what all you do is you play the major scale, the C major scale, starting on G and ending on G, and that will give you the fifth mode, the mixolydian mode. You'd play that over a G7. You can play it over a G. Okay, you can play it over a lot of things, but it's meant for a dominant 7 chord. So in any scale, it works that way. Okay. So let's see if I've got caught up here with everything. All 7 modes work the same way. Okay? So you just take the original key, and whatever the mode is, if it's the second mode, you start on the second note, end on the second note. If it's the third mode, you start on the third note, and etc. all the way through. Rather than trying to think about each individual mode scale, think about the major scale and just start it on the correct note. That's all there is to it. So I know it's still confusing. I get that. But if you start getting those things, learning all the notes on the fretboard, learning the phone number 221-2221, that is the scale degrees of a major scale. Then numbering your major scales, and then learning how to harmonize your major scales. That's major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. All major scales work that way. If it was a minor scale, it would start on that minor chord and have the same progression. Okay? I think that's about it. So you've got the materials there. The numbered fretboard in the C scale, start there. Start seeing where all the different shapes are for the cage shapes and picking out the numbers that are in those shapes. And really starting with the 1s, 3s, and 5s. I've done a couple of, I'll link some other videos to this. 1, 3, and 5 in the major scale is the chord tones. So start learning the chord tones, learning the numbers. Eventually you'll see all of this and you won't need to think about names of notes or numbers or anything. Okay, trust me. You're going to love it. So everybody be good out there. And if you have any questions about this, you know, put it down in the comments, preferably positive ones. And put it in the comments and I'll try to answer those questions for you. Okay, thanks. See you in the next video.